I'm back again, and we're talking about today the emotionally abusive relationship. I'm the Yvette Myers, so let's get started. So, with this first slide, let's begin by defining emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is any kind of abuse that is emotional rather than physical in nature. It can include anything from verbal abuse to constant criticism to more subtle tactics. Um, Such as constant criticism or subtle tactics such as intimidation, manipulation, and refusal to ever be pleased. No matter what you do, they're not pleased. Um, it is mostly used by insecure people who feel the need to undermine people's feelings, others' feelings, to the point where it's absolutely unbearable and action must be taken. You have to take action when you are in a position where you feel that you're not being validated. You are responsible for that. Emotional abuse can drag someone to ends of insanity because it can be explained away. It's not that serious. You're tripping. Maybe you're just too sensitive. It can cause grief, loneliness, and even suicide. Let's begin by the types of emotional abuse: withholding affection, threats, ultimatums, lack of respect for your privacy, property damage, magic tricks, playing the blame game, alienation, excessive gift giving, controls of resources, and micro cheating. Withholding affection is simple, not refusing to give what's reciprocate affection that your partner is giving you. Threats: the abuser might threaten to expose you in a way that you find embarrassing. Um, ultimatums. Ultimatums are, if you don't do this, I'm going to do this. If you don't give me this, I'm going to give that. Do that. Lack of respect for your privacy. Now, some people, especially couples, find that privacy. They try to stay away from the term privacy, and I've heard quite often that everything is open and we have no secrets. But even in healthy relationships, and not saying that anyone's relationship is not healthy, whatever is working for you and your relationship, continue to do that. But there has to be a measure of privacy. I'm sure that, and when I say a measure of privacy, if you're in the bathroom, you don't want your partner in there as you clean yourself. You don't. If you have a journal and you're just brain dumping, and that's a way of that you help yourself to process situations, anything that's going on in your life. There has to be a measure of privacy that your privacy is going to be respect. And if your partner should happen to pick up your journal or walk in while you're cleaning yourself and you're in the bathroom, then there has to be rules as to what we can talk about. If you decide, one of my rules, and it's just an example, is I brain dump. In my journal, I brain dump. I don't keep secrets, but I do brain dump. Now, if you pick up my journal and you read something and your feelings are hurt, you cannot talk to me about that. What you can do is say, is there anything in your journal that you feel that we may need to talk about? You can bring it up, but to say in many senses check me on what I wrote in my journal, that was off limits, and that worked for me. Now, that might not work for you. If that does not work for you, do not apply what works in Yvette's life to your life. That's like a privacy, property damage, tearing up dishes, tearing up cars. That's all types of emotional abuse because there's an emotional attachment to those things. Magic tricks. Magic tricks are redirecting blame for someone else's bad behavior or acts of bad behavior. Starting fights, firing off accusations at you immediately before or after being especially nice. Being nice, and then something is on the horizon because that's when you start firing off the accusations, or your partner begin to fire off the accusations. I'm tongue tied today. That's a type of emotional abuse. Those are magic tricks. Playing the blame game. It's your fault. It's no one's fault. Everybody takes responsibility for themselves and their own actions. That's the only thing that we can take responsibility for. Alienation, cutting or blocking your partner out. things that you have included or you know that's important to your partner, but you exclude them as a way of get back. Excessive gift giving. Now, who would think that that would be in there? That's a type of emotional abuse. And excessive gift giving usually occurs after something traumatic has happened. It doesn't occur just random gift giving. It's excessive gift giving. Something has happened, some event has happened, or some behavior or some outburst has happened. And now let me make it right by giving gifts. That's what we're talking about. Controls of resources. That's pretty much self-explanatory, but that's a type of emotional abuse. Your partner cannot go places or do something without your knowledge unless you give them every penny daily or weekly or monthly, or every amount of income that they receive is through you. Now, if that works for you in your house, then keep doing it. But if it doesn't, then that's what we have to, there's something has to be talked about. And micro cheating. Micro cheating is interesting. These are ways in which your partner connects to others and hides it from you with code names in their phone, withholding attention, and narcissism. Now, code names in their phone, I've heard of people, someone's name is Jackie, and they, which happens to be my daughter's name, but this is just an example. Then they were in their phone, it would be under Joe, because we call her Joe. My first name is Bertha. I've heard of people coding names, and as an example, to put Bert, because that can give you the impression that if anybody picked up their phone, it's a dude. I've also heard of coding names in the phone through last name only, so that you can't really tell if it's a male or female. These are types of emotional abuse, things that your partner finds or has to investigate if they need to, or if they could find out if they want to know. Now, do I encourage investigation? Whatever works for you in your house. But those are types of emotional abuse. Let's talk about the effects of emotional abuse. Emotional abuse causes internal damage. Let's say that again for the people in the back. Emotional abuse causes internal damage. It causes you to question your position in a relationship, and severe abuse can cause you to question your existence. It causes anxiety, depression, grief. It causes all these things. Emotional abuse causes internal damage. This happens when the person that is emotionally abusing has been allowed to have a greater opinion on you than your own opinion, than your opinion of yourself. They have a greater opinion of you than you have of yourself. Somewhere their opinion has become more important to you. Now, is that good or bad? I don't like the term good or bad, and I avoid using it many times. I like to use the terms, is that positive or negative? Positive decisions are decisions that add value to our life. Negative decisions are decisions that take away value from our life. Good and bad is subjective. So, is this a positive or a negative decision? For someone else to have a greater value or greater opinion, or a greater opinion to you than your opinion of yourself to you. If that works for you, continue to do it. If it doesn't, something's got to change. You're going to hear me keep saying that because I do not encourage breakups. I do not encourage divorce. I do not encourage leaving a relationship. That's going to be have to be a decision that you make for yourself. What I do encourage is, if something is not working, then something has to change. And only you have control of that change. There are a few books that I've picked up to complete this workshop. And one of them is When Someone You Love is Angry by W. Doyle Gentry, PhD. Dr. W. Doyle Gentry. Now, there are a couple of points that I encourage you. First, I encourage you to pick up this book yourself, because there's so many points inside this book, and I can only put out a couple of bullets without giving you the whole book, and I'm not going to do that. But I encourage you to pick up this book, When Someone You Love is Angry, by Dr. W. Doyle Gentry. One of the points was early victims of toxic anger often become perpetrators of rage later on. If unprocessed anger, unprocessed frustration, unprocessed any event that happened in your life, you're likely to repeat it even when you don't like it. Toxic anger can be lethal. Studies have shown that toxic anger, whether suppressed or expressed, is linked to a greater risk of coronary heart disease and subsequent heart attacks. It's amazing that, or it's interesting that the heart, when we think of the heart, we think of love, and then and then to correlate that to a heart attack when you are toxic to someone else. I find that interesting. It then becomes your responsibility to make the necessary changes. You have to decide what you're going to do. Are you going to continue to love someone angry? Are you going to continue to be angry and then continue to say that you love someone because you're hurting people? If your partner refuses to acknowledge that there is a problem, you have to make a decision. Your health is being affected by their toxicity. Not sure if that's a word. It sounds like a word. But your health is being in a relationship with someone that's constantly angry. It keeps you on pins and needles. It keeps you to a position of not knowing what to do next. You don't know if you should be happy, or you don't know how the environment's going to be when you walk in the door. So you pretty much walk on eggshells through the door, and then you wait until you get a measure of feedback to see what you're going to do next. That is toxic. That is not healthy. You have to make a decision. Is that the life that you want to live the rest of your life? The rest of your life, whatever your age is now. What if I told you that you're going to live till you was 100? And the relationship that you're in right now, with the environment that is created in that relationship, what if I told you that that was going to stay that way until you were 100? Are you prepared to stay in that relationship under those circumstances? If not, you have to make a decision. Another point that I want to make is listening versus hearing. We often listen to respond, not to solve problems or to hear issues. We listen, we stop. Someone is telling us something, or we're going through an issue, and we stop and we're listening until we hear that key word. We hear that word that gets our attention so that we can respond at that point. Waiting to hear keywords that will minimize the points that the speaker is making. That is listening versus hearing. Listening is listening intensely. Hearing is listening for a keyword, a point, for someone to say something that has a sub-truth in it. And once that is said, that's what we hone in on. And nothing else the person is saying is even heard, validated, or paid attention to, because we heard that one sub-truth and we're just going to beat the hell out of that truth or that point until we make our point across, which brings about more anxiety, stress, depression. 4 things are mentioned and only one gets your attention. The others are ignored. If you find that this is the case, acknowledge the discrepancy immediately. Take the fire from the flame. So if you say something or you do something, and that becomes the base of the next argument or the next discussion, take the fire from the flame. Acknowledge it. I said red, I should have said blue. Yes, the answer is blue. I was mistaken. You've taken the fire from the flame. Now that will let you know if the person that you're talking to is there to solve a problem, or if they just want to keep harping on you mentioning red instead of blue. Take the fire from the flame. If there's an error, acknowledge it and move on. Okay, that was an error on my part. Let's move on. Let's get to the bigger issue. Let's solve what the problem is. The problem is, the situation that's bothering me is this. I said something that was not accurate. I said a half truth. I said this or I said that. Now we can talk about that later. But right now, let's continue to talk about this. If the person continues to harp on that one point, they have no desire to solve the issue. They will only want to bring to your attention your flaws. You have to make a decision. It can be, that's the difference between listening and hearing. If you are that person, then if they acknowledge that they said the wrong color, or if they acknowledge that something wasn't accurate, then write a note, keep notes, and move on to help solve the issue that they're concerned about. And then when you're done, go back to that point. If it's dead, then it's dead. If it's not, then it's not. But don't allow it to go untalked about if you're still having an issue with it. But if you're there for something else, then you have to be able to put that to the side and finish what's going on at that time. That goes both ways. Being understood is subjective. There is no definitive, there is no exact definition for that, being understood. In order for anyone to say that someone else understands me, you understand me, I'm sorry. That means that they are looking through a lens that you have created. It is very difficult for anyone to do that. Even if you and I witness the same events, you're going to internalize it differently than I will. It's difficult for anyone to understand how you are feeling. Our expectations in understanding may need to be revisited. Do we need someone to understand, or do we need someone to empathize? Do we need someone to just listen? Those are things that, when I say being understood is subjective, those are the things that I mean. Sometimes we may just need someone to just listen. Genuine listening means suspending your memory, taking the time to just say, you know what, I'm not going to think about nothing right now while I'm listening to them, and trying to empathize with what they're telling me. Your desire and judgment, you're going to remove that. And for a few moments, at least, existing for the other person. You're existing or trying to exist as they would see things. That's genuine listening. Now, even at that, you're still going to see it, interpret it differently. But at least for a moment, you can see their point of view, where their anxiety comes from, their stress comes from, their depression comes from, their frustration comes from. That's listening, or trying to listen from their part, from their position. Now, this brings us to our next point of being in an emotionally abusive relationship. Let's just be. Be in control of you. You can't control that person. You can't control any situation or outcome. You can only be in control of you. I just realized that control is spelled wrong. You cannot control your partner. Focus on your behavior and be sensitive to how your behavior affects your loved ones. If you find that everything that I've talked about, if you find that you are the person that's being emotionally abusive, you have to control you. If you're upset, if you're frustrated, if you're angry, you have to control you. You have to get to the point where when you're at a toxic level, you need to walk away. I tell clients many times that put your behavior or your anxiety, stress, depression, whatever you are, put that on a scale of 1 to 10. Anything over a 5, you should not be talking to anybody. You need to get away. You need to get to the point where anytime that you are frustrated to the point that your number is your anger level, your depression level, your frustration level, your anxiety level is over a 5, remove yourself from the situation and decompress. Breathe. Talk yourself down, call someone, do whatever you need to do to get yourself under a 5. And then you go interact. Anything over a 5 is likely going to cause stress and anxiety and depression in someone else. Be quiet. Everything doesn't require a response. Sometimes quietness is just as effective as giving your opinion or failing to identify hurt. Failing to identify the hurt that you've caused. Be quiet. If someone says that What you said hurt my feelings. Acknowledge that. Do you have to apologize? That's subjective. Are you required to apologize? That's up to you. But if someone tell you that something that you did hurt them, then acknowledging is the least that can be done. Be quiet. Be available to change. Contrary to what you believe, your opinions, thoughts, and ideas are not always right. And even when not trying to, we can cause pain in others. If a loved one tells you that they are hurt, be open to hear how you hurt them. And if there is something that you can do, adjust. Be. We're still talking about being in an emotionally abusive relationship. Be about your business. There's another way of saying mind your business. Emotional abuse happens when pain happens, and then we increase in an attempt to minimize our own pain. We do whatever necessary to get that pain to either whatever the confrontation is to get it away. And we can say things, do things, and be things that are not pleasant. Be about your business. Mind your business. If you are in a bad place, it is your responsibility to control you. And saying that this person or that person or my significant other or my job caused me or creates so much anxiety or stress or whatever you identify in me that causes me to respond this way, that's not true. That what's happening is things are happening in your life and you're choosing to respond to it through anxiety, stress, depression. Be about your business. Your only business is to take care of you. How quickly are you to mention the flaws of your partner or children to others? Be about your business. This is another way of saying mind your business. I ask that question because many times things will frustrate us. We'll get to the point where we're so angry that we'll get on the phone, we'll go to work, and we'll talk about how someone said something or did something that bothered us. And then in our attempt to justify why we responded that way, we will tell everybody else all the horrible things that they did, or all the horrible things, or they're not this and they're not that. That's a coping mechanism that's flawed. How quickly are you to mention the flaws of others in your frustration? Now I ask, how quickly are you to mention your own flaws? If you find yourself in the midst of a conversation airing someone else's flaws, stop talking, shut up. Now some people are going to get stuck right there. No, she didn't tell me to shut up. Yes, stop talking. So for you, I say stop talking. Close your mouth. Start talking about yourself. If you want to tell something, tell what you did. Tell something. Tell one of your deepest, darkest secrets that you're hoping that no one ever finds out. Tell that. We can only change ourselves. Focus on our saying, and some people will even go and say, I know who need to hear this. I'm going to send this to so they can listen to this. You're the person that's likely in church and the pastor says something. And then you go, amen. And then you look over at your significant other as if saying, yeah, he's talking to you. Sometimes the message is for you. Sometimes the message is for you. Be about your business. Control you. Address you. If someone tells you that you're being offensive, address it. Even if you don't talk to them about it, walk away from the situation and ask yourself, if someone else said to me what I just said to them, I would be okay with it. If that's the case, then continue to be you. If it's not the case, then don't adjust anything, because what we'll say is, if someone said what they said to me and they did what, nope, you're adjusting now. And they did what they did to me and you're adjusting. What I said was, if someone can say the same exact things that you just said to them without any adjustment, not without a backstory, those same exact words to you, and you are okay with it, continue to do you. But if for some reason or any reason that those words coming to you from someone else would be problematic, then you need to adjust something. Something should be adjusted. Listening involves paying attention, being attentive, providing feedback, removing judgment, and responding appropriately. Let's say that again for the people in the back. Listening involves paying attention, hearing what your partner is saying emotionally. Sometimes we get caught up on the words, but we don't hear what they are saying emotionally. We don't identify their hurt emotionally. And many times, if we just listen emotionally, we can hear what someone is saying. Sometimes I like to close my eyes for a second to hear the pain that you can't see. Sometimes you miss with verbal communication. Be attentive. Listen for the appropriate time to respond, which leads us to the next one, providing feedback. Every now and again, if you just sit there quiet, someone may think that you're not listening to them. Remove judgment. This is not a time for you to be judgmental and then respond appropriately. Appropriately can also be just being quiet. In closing, we need social support. We are incapable of processing anything emotionally alone. When we have help processing distress, it has less long-term effect. That has been proven. We need an outlet, another person. Who do you talk to? Know what it is that you want and don't want in a relationship before you enter it. If it's too late, if time has passed and you've already entered a relationship or a marriage, it's never too late to identify things that are stressing you out. Find the strength to talk about it. If the person won't adjust, or the anxiety, depression, stress, grief, if that won't go away or that does not go away, you have to make a decision. You are physically, literally killing yourself. Set limits. If someone is overwhelming you, tell them. If they won't accept it, you have to make a decision. If you are in an emotionally abusive relationship, you have to make a decision, one that puts you in the best position to be healthy mentally and physically. You have to make a decision. This is not them. It's you. If you continue to stay in an emotionally abusive relationship, anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, stress, heart attacks, strokes, if you continue to stay in a relationship that is creating all of these things in you, that's you. You have to make a decision. Thank you for sitting through this with me. You can reach me at Better Decisions, Better Health. My website is www.betterdecisionsbetterhealth.com. My name is Yvette Myers. My phone number is 803-597-2324. My office number is 803-667-4500. Thank you for taking this time. If you need anything, go to my website. You can find pamphlets. You can find different type of reading material that I've written or things that I've come across that I find interesting. I encourage you to contact me if you want me to do a workshop for your office or environment, or for your do a powwow session at home with family members. I'm available. Give me a call. Thank you so much for taking the time to spend with me, and have a good day.